Here we go. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to our Wednesday night Conscious Collective Live. It's so good to come, still via internet to your lounge, and a little bit different. The circumstances have changed in the last 6 weeks. Everyone is kind of back into the flow. So very interesting times. And so I just always like to just take a second as we start to take some big breaths, to center ourselves, say hello. I know Helen just arrived 25 seconds before we went live, so that's always a gig. And Kimberley, look forward to hearing where you're coming from. Looks like you're live in some sort of vehicle, so it's look forward to that story. But kia ora, everybody. It's really nice to have you with us tonight. So tonight we're going to have a good roundhouse chat about all sorts of things. We're going to touch on what we've learned throughout this crazy COVID lockdown. We're going to talk about reintegration. We're going to talk a little bit about the play to heal the world, and also some amazing and exciting plans for us to keep connected. And so we've got all that. But what I would really love as well is I'm going to paste a link, and I'm going to invite some people. If those who are brave want to be part of the broadcast tonight, we can actually facilitate you. And we'd love to interact. We'd actually love to hear about your experiences throughout the lockdown, and also how you're finding life back. It's a little bit of a talk show, a little bit of a chat show tonight, which is fun. It should be really good. So, Kimberley. Oh no, here, have your drink. This is great. Have a drink.
Yes.
That's a cup. That is a cup and a half.
Ah, yeah. Yeah. It's called a cup of happy.
That's it. I have mine. Mine just pales in comparison. I do. When I do make a cup of tea, I always get a little self-conscious about which cup I'm using, but I was given this one.
Oh. Someone said to me that having a cup of tea is like having a bath on the inside.
Yeah. I love it. It's comforting. Where are you coming? Where are you streaming from, Kimberley? Where are you in the world?
Right now, the Billy the bus is backed up, and I wish you could see the back. But at Nongatahaha, that there's a beautiful little campground, and the bus is literally probably less than probably 20 meters, no, way less, of water is right there, 3 meters. So en route to do some PD. So, but I'm not actually sure if it's going to happen because of the level 2. So
right,
it's all good though. It's a good excuse to get out, give the bus a little bit of a run.
So there is still some restrictions around how many people can come to gatherings, right? It's kind of like Tangi Hana. Interesting.
Yeah,
have an intimate session of 10 people.
Yes. It's a little confusing though, because you can go to a cafe, and I sort of imagined that tables could be 1 meter apart, right, and that we just wouldn't do the food and drink. You could just bring your own tea, and then everyone could just sit in their little bubbles. But no, apparently we can't quite be that creative.
Maybe I was trying to think of solutions. Zooming into people's homes is probably one of the best ones at the moment.
Yeah. Well, you've converted me, Rick.
I know. I'm eternally grateful, and so is everyone who's watching. It's so beautiful to have you. Hey, so do you take your bus often? Is it a house bus?
Yep. No, every time. So basically, it's a business vehicle, and Billy. We've had Billy for 5 years, and we went from Billy to Winnie, and that's the one that a lot of people probably know. It was the one that was painted all over. But when the lockdown happened, basically business, of course, as we're in the business of working with teachers, it stopped. So unlike, when you own a centre, you get funding. But when you do our kind of work, hey, Helen, you don't get anything. So we sold Winnie and stayed with Billy, old Billy, and we're actually very happy. So we're back on the road in Billy, and this will be the bus now that we use for travelling around the country, connecting with all the beautiful teams.
Oh, that is wonderful. I think we were joking before that we've got a little van. We call him Rum Dus, and it's got a little bed in the back, and we love just getting out, zooming off to the ocean for a night or two. So I think maybe we can do a little festival tour buses. Going to visit New Zealand. How does that sound?
Excellent.
Now, Helen, how about you? Where are you at the moment?
I'm at home, and actually I could join the tour because I live in a tiny house, not just a little house, but an actual tiny house on wheels. So yeah, this is home for me. And I literally walked in the door probably about 5 minutes before we sat down to chat tonight. So I was grateful for the deep breath to start us off. Thank you.
You've had a busy day. What's that? What is that? Back just doing some professional development, or is it working in a centre?
No, today I was with a private client. So yeah, it's been an interesting 48 hours. I was just reflecting on the drive home about how because I work with families as well, and I was reflecting on the drive home how this last 48 hours has felt like this almost this culture shock to me of what the last couple of months has been. You know, I had a full day yesterday. We had our evening discussion last night, and then I got up this morning, left the house early, got home tonight, and sat down here. And I think it's really made me take stock of what has been in the last couple of months and what a gift that's been, and I guess reassess whether or not this kind of back-to-back thing that I had going on for so long is actually what I want to be doing, and is that sustainable? So, which I don't think I ever really stopped and did before. It was just it just felt like that was life, and that's how everyone operates, and so why not me?
Yeah, that's a very interesting. I think that is absolutely what I'm experiencing as well. I don't know about you, Kimberley, but just my kids are back at school on Monday, and it was the morning routine starting back up, dropping kids off, working, and just that feeling of hurriedness sneaking back up in my body. And I don't know if I like it.
No, I don't. No. And I think the expectations, I've noticed that in the level 4, there was it was literally like a bubble of sort of protection, and there was no expectations. Time was of no issue. It was quite a protected space, and it was quite a slow living and simple living. And as soon as that sort of started to lift off, the expectations came, time became more of a pressure. And I agree, suddenly, because we stopped, when you start again, you realize, actually, my goodness, is this how fast life normally is? And actually, it gives you a little bit of a jolt and think, flip, do you really want it to be this fast? And no, no.
So what do we? I keep asking myself this, and I'm trying to create enough space to reflect on it. But what is it that you have learned through this kind of unusual gift of the lockdown? You know, the silver lining, I suppose, of all of this. What have you learned, and what do you dare not lose from that learning? So, like, what are we going to really anchor ourselves around? What do you think, Kimberley, if you might go first?
I definitely have, when I say have learned, I've always been a very strong person about rituals, but I realized that for me, they really are the anchor of my life. So in the lockdown, I think it gave me more time to take rituals slowly. So before, I still had rituals, but maybe I was in like 5th gear, whereas in the lockdown it was more like about 1st or 2nd gear. And I really don't want to lose that speed of things. So yeah, that's one thing. And I think the simplicity. that there's so much pleasure in small things. And you know how you sort of know that and you talk about that, but when you actually experience it, you embody it at a much deeper level. So yeah, I think simple living and rituals in a much more calmer, slower way.
Totally. What do you reckon, Helen?
I'm actually going to excuse myself for 20 seconds. The washing machine's beeping and it's driving me batty, but I'll be right back.
This is all part of it. I'm going to invite.
No one else can hear that. I'll leave it be. But then I thought, you know,
your mind the whole time was going to be like that washing machine. I'm going to just quickly, everyone. I'm posting a link here. I would love to hear some of your thoughts, thoughts from the community, and about what this lockdown, what it's taught you, and what your experience is, and what are you not kind of bringing in. And so, if you're bold enough and courageous enough to come and jump on and join our convo, just jump on that link and hop on. Back to you, Helen. So the question: do you want me to repeat the question, or are you good?
No, I'm good. I was thinking about this today, and I guess I had periods of busyness and then periods of things slowing down where I could actually process some stuff throughout the day. And something that really occurred to me was, even, this is about my state, and no matter what situation I'm in, I can choose my response to it. And so, lockdown, while it was full of slowness and kind of a time of introspective thinking and all of that, it was also, for me, I guess, to get a bit vulnerable for a minute, there was a lot of anxiety in there. There was a lot of worry over what the future looks like. And something that I kind of grappled with was, at that point in time, it felt like I had no idea what the future looks like. And there was this realization for me in that space that I never did know that the illusion I was under, that I had control or that I could predict the next 6 months, was purely an illusion. And so when I move beyond that space and I sit in just the present, I find a whole lot of freedom there. And so how can I bring that learning into this busyness that exists and returning to, I guess, our normal day-to-day life? And so even today, I stopped for a moment and I looked around, and I had throughout my day encounters with 3 different beautiful children, and I looked today at this child that I was in the presence of, and I thought, this moment is so perfect and unique and will never be experienced again. How can I fully, I guess, mindfully capture it? And so something that I was practicing during lockdown was just stopping in the moment, whatever that moment would be, and I almost visualize sort of sending it through my body. So sending it right down to my fingertips and breathing, and how that anchors me to be here rather than to be way back there in the past or worrying about the future, to just really fully be here. And for me, that has to be a bit of a physical experience. I've got to breathe. I've got to imagine that happening for me. And my belief that I couldn't carry that back into day-to-day life now that it's becoming busier again is purely just a limiting belief, because I can, and it only takes me 20 seconds, 30 seconds to do it. And we all have 20 seconds to do something like that. So yeah, for me, that's my focus, I guess, moving forward, because there are a whole lot of things that I experience that I would love to continue with, but I think when you bite off a little more than you can chew, you're less likely to turn these things into ways of being, and they fizzle out. So for me, that's my little focus for
that's beautiful.
Going forward.
I totally agree. I think when we start looking for meaning or purpose outside of the present moment, we start chasing, we start moving, trying to create, trying to move towards, rather than, I think maybe as a child or in that pure state, and when attachment needs are met, the richness of the present moment is all we've ever needed. And it's little adaptations from that moves us out of thinking that this moment is not enough. And so we try and chase a different feeling, we try and chase a different world, or we try and control our circumstances, or change our job, or change our partner, or instead of possibly realizing that whatever is being served up by reality is rich enough for me to be completely enthralled by it, good or bad. I think we also get quite scared of pain. We get scared of trials, difficulties, all those things. But I think once we get a little bit of a helicopter view and we get some perspective, we realize that those were really the things that shaped us. Hard sometimes to understand that, but the present moment is very, very safe. It's all our projections onto it that makes us feel like it's not safe. I don't know if that kind of rings true to what you were saying.
Well, and actually your comment about discomfort or difficulty, this is actually, I wrote this down last night as a thought. I'd been for a run, and during my run I just felt this is something else I've been working on during lockdown, was I always have excuses around why I don't have time to prioritize fitness and any goals there. So I've been running a lot through lockdown, and I was running yesterday and my legs just felt heavy and I wasn't feeling the run, and I noticed myself thinking, I'll just stop. And so again, I came back to my breath, and it occurred to me that I have this inbuilt desire, and I'm sure a lot of human beings do, to step out of pain, to step out of discomfort. Every time I experience something that is uncomfortable for me, whether it's physical pain or emotional or however it might be, I choose to flee the situation. And so instead I focused purely on my breath. And the next thing I knew, I'd run another 9 minutes from when I first looked at the watch thinking, is it over yet? So, and I thought about that in relationship to busy workplaces, for parents dealing with, highly charged emotional situations, coming back to something as simple as our breath and allowing discomfort to be okay is, for me, transformational. So, and it's not something I'm going to be done with now. I think it's a lesson I'll sit with for probably the rest of my life. But yeah, this realization that this isn't, just because it's uncomfortable doesn't mean I need to leave the space behind right now. So
yeah, beautiful. I think it's this is slightly different, but it's similar, I think. There was this there's this show on Netflix called You, which kind of drives me crazy a little bit, but it's like second or third season, I think, gets quite good. And there's this one space where he starts doing some inner work, and starts kind of healing some of his trauma. And he has this kind of out there therapist, seen with this therapist, meditation healer kind of guy. And he drops this piece of wisdom that has been staying with me. And I'm like, that is so profound. And it's around acceptance, the transformational power of acceptance, of being okay. And he said, so when you're feeling uncomfortable and scared, or realizations of your, like, oh my gosh, I've done something really wrong, or there's all these feelings in my body, or there's pain in my body, or whatever it is, you just say the 3 words, and I'm okay with that. And it completely transforms the way that you can relate with that present moment. If you have a bug or anything like that, and there is fear attached to that bug, you're unable to get curious about it. Right? The fear of the bug, or the fear of that present moment, or the fear of that feeling stops you from actually becoming curious, which is the healing in itself. So when you're uncomfortable and you can sit with some really uncomfortable emotions, if you're not scared of having those in your body, you can get curious. And when you get curious about, I wonder why, like, you're all welcome here, I wonder why, then it can start really moving in its life cycle.
Absolutely.
So anyway, that's a little bit of a long long intro here. I see that. I feel that no one has been quite brave enough to jump on, but lots of comments coming through. Can you guys see the chat comments?
Yeah.
Kimberley, just trust. You can trust that it's coming through. They're loving what we're saying.
I trust.
Let's see if I'm just reading some of this. Robin, this is quite interesting. I'll show this one. Says, I felt like I was close to burning out, heaps of stress. Lockdown gave me breathing space and gorged myself with heaps of professional development and feel refreshed and am in a far more positive and reflective space, renewed passion for ECE. That is so. Kimberley, what's been some of the feedback you've had from people who've come back from lockdown, your teachers, and what have they enjoyed?
Yeah, a very similar song. Everyone's saying this, very similar to that, to Robin. That sense of, in a way, it was a bit of a gift, because often if you go on holiday, you've got the expectations of going on holiday, and it's a very small window of the year. Whereas, in a sense, for a lot of teachers, they said their body got a rest, their mind got a rest, and a lot of people like Helen, that sense of anxiety was definitely there, but in so many ways, we had a nest. We were all at the nest on Sunday, and we had a lovely little reflection, and we were all saying it was actually like a gift, because, like, we're all, except one, we're all, a bit older, so it's actually quite a little treat to have like an actual rest. So, and in that rest, there was a real sense of restoration. So rest as in physical rest as in restored, and some time actually to really do kind of stuff that maybe the stuff that you never got around to doing, like, I will maybe do that tapestry, or I will do that garden, or I will do that sewing, but you always find an excuse why you don't. So a lot of people, to be honest, said that they played more. They actually played. So in playing, we know that, like, that is like the best medicine, the best balm for the soul you could possibly get. So for a lot of people coming back, there is actually a little bit of grief, not grief in the fact that they don't love what they do, but grief that, worrying that there's going to be a loss of some of those things that they really found to be quite restorative. So yeah, it's been really interesting to actually hear different people's experiences. And then, of course, a bit like me, where I had a huge to-do list, and every day the shed got moved from week 1 to week 8, and this is how I always work. When there's no more room for procrastination, then there is no choice. So I have to do it. Yeah. So, everything's crammed at the last minute. And I was like that at university too. I mean, it's a standing joke. I would be the last person to get anything in. I'd have calves the size of a jolly elephant, because I just sit there and cram the assignments in. But I just kind of work like that. I'm better if I'm a bit more of I don't know what it is. It's just the way I do it. So, I do feel a bit bad that I didn't do a little bit more than the list. But hey, it is what it is. So yeah, I've got to just forget the shoulds and think it just is, and just enjoy it. Yeah.
Do you I've heard you speak a little bit about some of the stuff you guys were doing at the nest to prepare for community coming back in, and I wonder, like, share a little bit of your experience of how has the nest community operated through lockdown? How have you managed to stay connected to whānau, and how have you prepared, to come back into integration? How's that all gone for you?
Really good. Yeah, because I suppose technology was not something that was our friend, if I'm honest. It was probably our last place of go-to. But in the lockdown, it was really the only place of go-to, because the connection wasn't physical, so therefore it was either phone, text, Facebook, or Instagram or whatever. So because we do have such rich relationships, we weren't going to let the fact that we were physically distanced to interfere with the emotional connection that we all had. So we did what a lot of people did, and we created like a whānau page, like a nest family page, which meant that everybody could contribute on that page. And the amazing thing is we had a new group of families that were just in their settling period, as in they'd been through all of the induction, they'd just started, and they weren't really integrated right in. But for some amazing situations was that some of these people met through Facebook and realized they had a lot of commonalities. And I always think that your community is people, and your vibe attracts your tribe. So the tribe of people that we attract have very similar parenting styles, very similar beliefs in, for example, nature, free play, not plastic. I mean, there's a lot of things, so there's lots of things. And some beautiful friendships have started. And I think for some people, the safety of behind the screen meant that they could connect in a safer and deeper way without the anxiety. Because sometimes when you're a new parent coming into a well-established big nest family, you see people really comfortable sitting on deck chairs, really comfy. And I would imagine it could be quite daunting. But this way has meant people have made some beautiful friendships. And now in level 2, they're all meeting each other. And they're having, these lovely little, connections with children, and they're meeting at the beach. And that's been really beautiful. But I think the other thing we were talking about is that some parents, after a while, Facebook, and I don't know what you both think, and I think, if I'm honest, I would agree with this, is sometimes we don't really put up our messy house. We don't put up a day where we're looking like crap. We actually present to the world quite a polished look of who we are, who we're with, and what we're doing. So I'm wanting, a little thing I've been thinking about is to actually really say to our families, our nest family, to be vulnerable and actually to be real, and that maybe we might not just put everything that's going perfectly, because anxiety is, we all walk that line daily between being anxious and not. And sometimes to know that someone else is struggling with a bit of anxiety can be really helpful and supportive. So we have got parents that have got some things, really hard things going on. But when they only see the perfect images of the families that look perfect, I think we can get a distorted vision. But actually, that's not the case. So, yeah, it's actually been really interesting. So, on the whole, I really believe that because of the richness of our relationships, and because we all have like families that we're devoted teachers for, and this has really enabled us to sort of, not tailor is a very technical word, but we call it wrapping our arms around. So when we have our heart meetings, we always say who needs to be wrapped in more love. That's our sort of terminology. And if there's any families that just need to be wrapped a bit more in love, the devoted teacher will just say, look, I think this or that, and then together we'll brainstorm of how we can just wrap them in more love. So as we've opened our hearts and our arms and the nest is back open, we just wanted to make sure that basically as they came in, they were coming in to experience the same. That sense of their second home. We didn't change anything around. We just gave it a good little refresh and a house clean and put up the things that we would normally do, so that there was that familiarity. I can't say that word properly, but familiar. And I was pondering, like, if we go away on an overseas trip or something, you say to someone, oh, how was your trip? And they say, oh, it was brilliant. But actually, I'm so happy to be home, in my own home, with my own bed, with my own smells, and back to the routines. And I thought, in a sense, families and children are coming back to their second home, to come back to the same, and it's like their own couch, their own little ways. And I think that's something that we feel we need to be really strong in, is keep the anchor same. Forget novelty, keep wrapping people in love so that they feel secure and you really hear their needs. So we've been very aware that we are hearing the needs beyond the conversation. So if people have got some anxiety, that we actually hear what is the anxiety and actually speak to that need. So if it's a need for them to know that their child will be emotionally nurtured because they're worried about physical distance, then we would say, look, I hear your need to know that your little one will be emotionally nurtured. Believe me, our arms and heart will always be open. Do you know what I mean? So every family has got different needs, and it's just so very important that we hear the needs beyond what they're saying. And I think if we can just provide that same, that known place, those rich relationships, we've found that actually the children are very, very settled. The parents are very settled. And when the parents trust us, and the children just look into the parents' eyes and think, well, if you trust, I can trust, you know? So, and I believe that's got a lot to do with the commitment and connection, but also the commitment in their environment being homely and same.
Beautiful.
That's a bit of a long garbled answer, but I was going on a popcorn thinking, really.
I wonder I'm reflecting here on there's a paradigm shift in the way that you view the world, Kimberley, which I really admire, and it's that you seem to value the parent's well-being as much as the child's well-being in your community, your common
Very,
unit,
very much.
your village.
Yeah.
And often we don't sense, you call your devoted teachers. Is that a phrase that you've used? And so often in the professional world, we're saying, well, we're child minders, or we're child carers or educators for the child. And there's a disconnection between the parent who comes to drop them off for 2 or 3 minutes in the morning and then leave.
Yeah.
And the child becomes separate to the whānau, and that partnership really gets broken, which is absurd. It's absurd. It's one of the most, I think, fundamental broken processes in our centres, really, that I've observed. How do you do that? How do you manage to get a team to think like this and a centre to start? Because it can feel overwhelming, right? Like, we're not counselors, we're not psychologists, we're not here to serve.
No.
So what is it? Can you just give us a little glimpse of what that actually looks like, or how that works?
Yeah. Just to be clear, like everyone, we're on a journey, and it's a journey in the connection, and it's a journey in the way we see ourselves and the way we see others. But I think Emi Pitler talks a lot about a shift in consciousness, the way we see children. But I believe it's a shift in consciousness, the way we see the child, the way we see the family, and the way we see ourselves. And when we see everyone as free and equal human beings, that we all have light, but we are different lamps. And when I heard a quote, and I can't remember who it was, but it was, the best teacher is the one that sees the light in those that they are working with. And I just think, when you see the child as part, and the family as part of one whole, then you actually wrap the family. And if you, it's like a triangle. So we work on a triangle just a simple analogy. So the child is at the base of the triangle. The family is, say, on the left for love. So family is there. And then the team, devoted teacher, is on the right. Now, the reason we say teacher is because we work with basically 2 to 6 year olds, more 3 to 6 year olds. So if we were working with infants and toddlers, we would be primary caregiver or whatever. That's just so you get that bit. And we feel that if you drop if you drop the family out of that, you're actually dropping a huge part of who the child is. And the children will have a beautiful experience, don't get me wrong, at places. But if we really want to make an impact on the world going forward, it's so important that we journey with and see the family as part of that. And I think the way we were taught at university, for me, is quite a dry, technical, partnership with parents, get aspirations. That's a very head-based thing. Whereas if we take the journey of 6 handspans to our heart, and it's about relationship, then it's a very different approach. And I think when you're building a community, a community, you don't do that just with the child. It has to be the whole family. And the transfer of trust and the co-regulation can only happen when you have everyone involved. So we always believe that the child's play memoir, for example, that is a gift to the family. The child gets the gift of the experience. So the child that's playing richly, wildly, beautifully, and contentedly, that's their gift. But the family, they get the gift of seeing their child through new eyes, and a family loves nothing more than to know that you adore their child, but actually you adore them and you see the light in them. So we do a lot of intuitive writing, and we do a lot of very special heart letters to the family that really says, you know what, you're doing an amazing job. Job is such the wrong word, but they teach us so much. And I just am so grateful for the families. But to take them out of the picture, to me, would be like taking the chips out of the fish and chips. I mean, you know what I mean? That's a silly analogy, but you just can't do it.
That's it. Helen, what do you think around that? The dry language of aspirations, but partnership with parents, it's like a symbol that's lost its meaning and disconnected from the true essence of what it really is. What do you think?
Yeah, it reminds me of, I think for me, one of the best compliments I ever received from a parent was that she said in the beginning, it was his first baby in the center environment for her, and she said her initial fear was that the attachment relationship that we hoped that the child would develop with their key teacher or primary caregiver would replace the one she had with the child. And she said to me one day, the most amazing thing that I've experienced has been that you have the ability to connect him to my love when I'm not there. And I think that happened, I mean, fairly early on in my teaching journey, and I've never forgotten it as that being one of my primary purposes, that throughout the day, we talk with the child about mum and dad and siblings and family members. And then when, there's a whole lot that obviously goes on in terms of building the relationship in the beginning, but I'm talking about sort of more day to day, that when the parent walks in the door, there's this joyful reunion that we hope for. And we, as the person who spent the day with the child, especially a pre or an early verbal child, it's our job to set the scene for that and to nurture that joyful reunion. And share with the parent. We were talking about you today. We were thinking about what you could have been doing in that moment when we were thinking about you, and seeing parents lighting up on that sort of thing. Connecting them when they're apart, I think, is for me is so key, and helping the parent to understand that there's no replacement of the attachment relationship that they have. This is the child showing us, I guess, the ability that they have to expand their heart, and widen that family circle. And I think what I really encourage educators to do is be really specific in sharing with families at the end of the day as well. It's very easy to say, oh, he had a great day, see you tomorrow. It's super easy to do that. But instead, can we say, oh, when he was out in the sandpit earlier this morning, I just noticed the most magical stuff going on. He was transferring from one little vessel to the other, and he just seemed so in his element. Do you see that sort of thing going on at home sometimes? And then allow them to show you that they're the expert on their own child as well. I think sometimes parents can feel a little intimidated, like Kimberley suggested as well, by coming into an EC environment where supposedly we're the experts. But I tell every parent, you're the professional on your baby. You're the professional. You're the expert. And we want to nurture that belief from the very beginning. And there's I guess strategies that we can employ to do that, but essentially it comes back to building that relationship of trust and recognition. And I think for a parent, we talk a lot about the child needing to be seen in the relationship, but gosh, first of all, before we even get there, the parent needs to be seen by us. I need to be seen as, the one that is the anchor for this child. Well before you become the anchor for them here, we need to recognize the parent as being that person first. So, yeah.
I think there's a joy for the child in the right setting to form relationships with those who the parent trusts, like, in certain ways. And I think we haven't quite fully yet grasped how sensitive the attachment and that trust, non-verbal heart connection between the child and the parent, what that actually means and how that's transferred. And just even the slightest sense of anxiety and incohesion and incoherence of the parent is going to have a lasting imprint on the biology of the child. So we have to I think we have to set an expectation, first of all, if we're thinking about what is good for the child, we have to educate parents, first of all, on how they should engage with us. We have to kind of give them an understanding of what the best way of integration is, in a sense, so that because I'm just thinking many parents are like, well, we don't know, how does this daycare thing work? How do do I just drop and run? Do I stay? I'm nervous. And it's up to us as educators to help them understand and feel comfortable and realize, not realize, I think, like, invite probably to be slow in the transition and really start to open those over time, those heart connections. Just want to carry on. And
it just comes to mind is that I hear everywhere I visit and everyone I work with that they want their space to be a home away from home for the child. And I think we really need to recognize that before that can happen, the parent needs to walk in the door and feel like this is an extension of their home and their family. And that comes down to even the simplest things that we overlook. For example, can the parent walk in and know how to be in the room, how to sit in the space, how to interact? And I think this is something we take for granted because we've been in this environment for so long. We know how to be, but does a parent walk in and know where they're going to sit, where they can be comfortable? Does the parent walk in and we have moments where the baby might be asleep still or something? Does the parent sort of hover around, or do you say, take a seat, how do you like your tea, I'll make you a cup of tea? And that's how we invite them to also feel that this is a home away from home as well.
Beautiful. I think
environment design is often so focused on the child, which is important.
Yeah.
It must reflect the biology, but I think it's very important that the design takes into account the families. So, you know, as teams, is to ask yourself, if I was a parent and I was walking in now and I was shy, where could I sit both in and out where I would be comfortable and not feel too obvious? Where could I sit where maybe there would be another seat for another person that could sit alongside me? How many adult seats can I be comfortable in? Because we know that children, you know, when they're in a position of comfort, they will tinker and potter for longer. And when an adult is in a position of comfort, they will stay longer and they will observe and see, and they will feel, see, hear the philosophy right before them, which then confirms, affirms, and supports them in their parenting journey. But I think, you know, like, it's so, if a parent has to try and put their bum on a tiny little seat and get squashed in between, you know, like, it's embarrassing. So, you know, we think we have deck chairs and little posies and like swing seats and hammocks and about 4 lounges, so they can just be very comfortable in whatever way, so that if I see one young mum and then another one coming in and they sit next to each other but they don't know each other, we would just nestle alongside, introduce them, and then the nest maker would just pop off and make them a nice little pot of tea so they can just sit and chat. And so many beautiful friendships have begun on the deck chairs out around the sandpit or in the forest. And I think, you know, it's a lovely way for your community to begin within, because the heart starts within. And it's like it's your lifeblood when you've got that love and people feel safe and they've got a sense of belonging and they don't feel like they've got to rush off or sneak off. They can just feel like the place has been set for them as much as the children.
Yeah, this is gold. We're just going over a new center design at the moment, and as you're speaking, these things are ringing so true to me. And often in the way that I'm designing environments, how often have I forgotten about that deep connection? It's such good, valuable feedback. I want to just quickly shift gears a little bit. Just as I do, tell me a little bit about Play to Heal the World. You guys were part of it. You were incredible presenters. You stepped outside your comfort zone, and we've been flooded with some pretty amazing feedback on from what's happened on this virtual festival that was hosted, which was just amazing. How did you find it, and what was some of the feedback that you've had, Helen?
For me, the most common feedback, or the feedback that really stands out the most, is how affirmed people feel. People have said to me, numerous people have said to me, this, you know, I've learned a lot, but also at the same time, who I feel like I'm called to be as a teacher, as a caregiver, is affirmed. And you know, we're swimming upstream in a big way with this way of being, because we've been taught for so long to be the teacher in a traditional sense and what that looks like. And someone emailed me just yesterday and said, coming back to the center and just being with the children this week, just sitting and having cuddles when they need it, being in the moment, not doing too much. She said, my eyes are open. I feel like this is actually how it's meant to be. And I feel like I've been given permission, because everything I've learned has affirmed this as what is actually right for the child. And that just makes my heart sing, because here we are actually marrying up what we're doing in practice with what we know to be true about who the child is, where they are in this stage of life, and therefore what they need. So that affirmation, that encouragement, that confidence boost that educators, heart-centered educators, have been given through this, to go back into an incredibly challenging role at times, feeling like they've been nurtured and affirmed, is probably the biggest standout for me.
Beautiful. What about you, Kimberley?
Yeah, very similar. A lot of people who maybe are in a team where perhaps they're not on a similar page have felt that they've finally got a tribe or a group of like-hearted others that they've made connections with. And people said they didn't really ever understand how powerful this type of festival can be. So I think for a lot of people, they're absolutely, like Helen said, there's the affirmation, the permission, and for some people, it surprised them with having an expectation that they were going to go to something to feel professionally fed, but they came away with feeling quite heartfully moved and a sense of an awakening within themselves to look a bit deeper. So, you know, we often talk about we teach who we are. And I think that for a lot of people, maybe they looked at the credential and their professional qualifications of who they are, but they'd never really looked at actually who they are as a person. So I think as we know, going within is not always clean, pretty, and easy. You know, it's about being vulnerable, and healing is healing. It's a journey. So I think some unexpected little branches from the root of the festival has caused a lot of people in some ways to really look at their life in a much, much deeper and different way. So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's it. I think we're beginning to understand that, and we were speaking to Philippa Hope last night, all of us together, and she was saying that we're beginning to understand at a root of a lot of our anxiety and maybe like the epidemic of mental health is due to a lot of trauma, and trauma happens in childhood.
Yeah.
So it really starts to focus us as adults who are working with children to say, well, I need to heal alongside the child. You know, I've come to this realization, or this real deep thought, that children are our healers. And I'm just checking in with myself as my children grow. You know, I realize that when my 8-year-old goes to school and he's nervous to go to school because he doesn't know if he's going to have any friends, I'm nervous because I was that 8-year-old who wasn't sure if he was going to have friends. Or when my 13-year-old daughter is feeling feelings of sadness, and I recognize I was the one that was sad as a teenager that didn't feel connected. And I get the ability, if I slow down and become aware, to look at myself and go, wow, okay, little 13-year-old Rick is still in there. And I've got this space, and I've got the ability now as an adult to almost reparent myself, my inner child. So I really think children are our healers, and if we can be present with them, we can co-heal together in this beautiful journey. And I think this is what was coming through in the Play to Heal the World Festival. It was that was, and that's what we've seen as well. We've been discussing on how do we. It feels like there's a groundswell of teachers, of kayako, of centers, heart-centered, passionate people who I feel are going to make a significant difference in the way that we operate in New Zealand. I really sense there's this momentum for change from the ground up. You know, I know a lot of the time we look from the top down and we want regulations to change and government to change and owners to change and all this kind of stuff. But I have this deep belief that actually there can be a ground up movement of teachers who believe and perceive the way of teaching very differently. And that's going to start to influence the way that our whole sector operates. And I was noticing, like, this already happens with natural environments and outdoor environments, even though, yes, it's not completely there. 10, 20 years ago, it was hardly there at all. But there was a groundswell from kayako and beautiful teachers and professional providers who helped us understand the biological imperative of the child, the need for nature. So I sense the same thing. And so what we're going to do, what we're working on together as a tribe, is we are wanting to launch, basically it's called the Heart Tribe. and it's with these beautiful people like Kimberley and Helen, and I've realized that there are many of us who would just absolutely love to be mentored through their journey by some of these voices, from some of your wisdom, from your kete. But it's very difficult, of course, because I know, Kimberley, I don't know if you're the same, but mentoring 10 people is hard enough just as a center. And you were telling me how you get so much, you get over like flooded with questions, and I'm sure, Helen, you're the same. People who just need just a little something answered, or advice on this thing or that. So we've realized that if we join together and we create a really good digital structure, that we can really help connect kayako with a tribe of mentors, the Heart Tribe, through the Conscious Collective. So we're working on that, and I'll share my screen quickly, because I've pulled together a. Let me just see if I can find that. I think it's here. 1 second. Here. It's called the Heart Tribe, and we're going to give you guys the link. And what we're going to do is we're going to create an online heart connected community that where we're going to have some of our favorite mentors who's going to really sow into that community and help people, help us all as centers and as teachers shift together. Part of that's going to be like a weekly live Q&A, where if you've got a question about something specific happening in your center and you're wanting some advice, you can ask a question that's going to be answered by one or two of the mentors. We're gonna do, and then every month we're gonna do what we call a deep dive workshop, which is, I'm just trying to see us again. Here we go. Which is just going to be something like the foundational workshops on how to be a heart-led teacher. Or it could be around something like transitions and how to do transitions effectively, or how to engage community effectively and really build that heart-centered tribe in your space, all that kind of stuff. And a whole bunch of other stuff. We're also planning online training that's going to be aligned with your teacher registration. So if you're got an inquiry or you're doing work on your teacher and registration, there'll be online courses for you to connect to. So that is what we're wanting to do. And like I said, there's actually a whole lot more, and we're going to explain as we go. We've got our friends at the moment. Our tribe is a tribe of mentors. It's Philippa, it's Lisa, Helen, Penny, who's got Kimberley's name on there at the moment, myself, and Kimberley, and Anya from the Heart School. So these are we're wanting to foster this community, and hopefully from our little bubble, we can really help this groundswell of people who are really wanting to do the best for children. So if you want to be a part of that, it's I think the cost of this, we're still figuring it out. It's going to be something like $24 a month. It's not a lot, given the fact that you're going to get a whole deep dive professional development per month. So that should kind of even out. But we really also want to talk to center managers and leaders and owners who wants their whole team on there. But for the first, we're kind of looking for our first 100 tribe members, our first 100. So we want to give you like a free 2 months to this. If this is you, if you want to join up, because we're still fleshing it all out, it means that you're going to be able to help us form this, and really your input is going to shape how this is going to start to unfold. So we kind of need you. So I'm going to just quickly copy and paste that, post the link on the comments. If you want to be a part of this, just register your interest, give us your email address, and we'll be in contact for that. Do you guys have anything you wanted to add just on how you guys are seeing this play out, or what you think this would be worth for the teachers?
Yeah, I think it could be great. I've got a sort of a imagining that if you were a team, for example, and you all came on board and you had a particular need, then you brought your need to the tribe, and then between the tribe there would be like almost an assigning of the right people to support you with that issue or that support sort of wrap around. I mean, there's all different levels of it, but I think it could be a wonderful way to cross-pollinate, to really get tailored specific support in a very heart-centered way. I think it will take things that can be very dry to be very alive. So instead of going to something that could be about Teacher Reg that could be like so boring, you could actually fashion it up to be in a way that's actually exciting and fully part of what you're creating and designing, because we don't want people to be clones. We're in the business of authenticity, and we're wanting people to be to thine self be true. So centers to be thine self be true, and to have leaders and mentors that can be seeing the light, and we work together. I think it could be really, really amazing. Yeah.
Cool. Helen?
Yeah, I just come back to something Kimberley said earlier, which is about being that wraparound support and wraparound love for people, for parents, for children, for families. And I see this as being an opportunity to do that with our teachers who are working so hard out there, and in a way that is, it's giving all the time. And something I'm very conscious of is I tell people all the time, make sure your cup is full. You can't pour from the empty cup. And I leave and I think, how though? Did I tell them how? And I feel like I'm so excited about this, because I feel like here's the how. Here's the how to come and get your cup filled, to have the wraparound support you need, to have the filling up that you need in order to be in this giving role that you're in. So yeah, I see it as that total wraparound, and that village for the ones who really need it, which is all of us.
Yeah, absolutely. So a couple of things we're leaving you with, action points. Number one is, I think we've posted the link to that website where you can leave your email address and become part of the first 100 tribe members. The second thing is we're going to do a call for owners and managers who are interested, so we can kind of just discuss some of the things that's possible. Because I know one thing that is possible on the platforms is that we can create a whole internal training induction program that is tailored for your center, with some of Helen's material for infants and toddlers, for example, like the Foundations 101 on infant care, and then some of Kimberley's stuff on community engagement, so that when a teacher comes and joins your team, you can say, hey, here's your induction, 6 weeks of induction, watch this, check that out, and then you're going to be on the same page as the whole team. Or you can take the whole team on this journey together. And I think that alone is really got the potential to transform how we practice. I'm really, really excited about that. So if you're a manager, please or an owner who's interested to be part of like helping us form this out, nut it out, get in touch. That would be really, really great. Okay, well, we've gone over our allotted hour. It's been so absolutely beautiful to connect with you guys here on a Wednesday evening. Thank you for taking the time. I know, Helen, you had a full-on day, and Kimberley, you're on the road. We really do appreciate it. We will catch up again really soon. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in, for connecting with us. You are the reason why we do this, because you are the heroes. You are absolutely the heroes. Turn up day in, day out, putting everything on the line, your heart completely open for the betterment of every tamariki in Aotearoa and the world. So, ka kite anō, have a beautiful sleep, and we'll check you out again later.
Pō Maria.
Pō Maria.